And, when you say take a look at numbers, I just saw some charts. These are different cities throughout the world. Red is, okay, the red is a place called Washington, D.C. Look at these.
All right, guys, it's absolute bedlam out there. Criminals and robbers are not on the loose, and Batman is nowhere to be found. Who will save us in these incredibly safe times? Wait a minute, weren't we just talking about the Epstein files and like Trump being in the Epstein files? What are the odds that crime is suddenly skyrocketing right after we were talking about Trump being in the Epstein files? That's crazy, right?
And
anyway, let's listen to Trump justify federally taking over the police force in Washington, D.C., alongside actual crime statistics, because I'm sure everything will be on the up and up, or in the case of crime, down and down and down and down.
See, look at the kind of numbers we have. D.C., 41 per 100,000, number one that we can find anywhere in the world. Other cities are pretty bad, but they're not as bad as that. That where you want to live? The reporters of the world? Juvenile offenders and crimes against persons, as they say. It's getting worse. Not getting better, it's getting worse.
Well, yeah, sure, you or I might be somewhat compelled by facts and data, but none of that matters anymore these days. You know what I mean? Not when you have charismatic television hosts who've been appointed to positions of power, standing behind podiums and telling us to be scared of everything. It reminds me of that Onion article that's like, conservative man, proudly frightened of everything. Speaking of television hosts who've been appointed to positions of power, here's Judge Jeanine. And before you go after Judge Jeanine, okay, remember that she has a very good reason for being against crime, because evidently someone stole her legs.
We need to go after the D.C. Council and their absurd laws. We need to get rid of this concept of, no cash bail. We need to recognize that the people who matter are the law-abiding citizens. And it starts today. But it's not going to end today, because the president is going to do everything we need to do to make sure that these emboldened criminals understand we see you, we're watching you, and we're going to change the law to catch you. And my final note is this. These kids understand that the jurisdiction is through the state attorney general, Brian Schwab. I did a poster of the young man from Doge who was beaten bloody with a severe concussion, a broken nose. And then I did a poster of what happens to those kids, because I can't arrest them, I can't prosecute them. They go to family court, and they get to do yoga and arts and crafts. Enough.
People who matter are the law-abiding citizens. You know, I actually like to think that people matter just full stop, but I'm old-fashioned that way. I'm not like one of these woke conservatives always dividing people up. Oh, did you abide by the law? Did you not abide by the law? I guess I'm just crime blind like that. But be that as it may, I will be on the lookout for a yoga practicing 15-year-old watercolor enthusiast who stole your legs, Jeanine. And if I find them, I will take your legs back and I'll hit them with your legs, which I think would be considered kicking. I don't know. It's like, where do pants go on a horse? You know what I mean? Anyway, she's a nightmare, but she's clearly brilliant. So let's see if she and Laura Ingraham, two great minds, can figure out why there are no prosecutors left. We're all trying to find the guy who did this.
Judge, I've been hearing from my sources at the DOJ that there is a very, very big problem with staffing. Assistant attorney generals on down saying, we have great plans, we're doing great things, but we're down like 2/3 staff.
Yeah,
What's going on?
90 prosecutors.
Why is that happening?
60 investigators
Why?
and paralegals. Because nobody cared. I'm telling you right now, nobody cared enough to make sure that office was running. I'm going to have that office running. If you want a job in the nation's capital, in the premier office, the largest U.S. attorney's office, contact me.
Where did all these prosecutors? It's baffling. It's like someone took a chainsaw to the government in the name of efficiency. But then when the job was too hard, he quit, and then he outed his friend for being in the Epstein list. Oh yeah, weren't we just talking about Trump being in the Epstein files? That's crazy. Just so much happening. But before we move on, let's watch Judge Jeanine one more time as she gives the longest version of no comment that I have ever heard in my life when she's asked about some actual violence that took place in D.C. on January 6th.
One of the biggest acts of violence here in D.C. was January 6th. As you know, hundreds of people were attacked. Police, or President Trump rather, pardoned a number of them, including someone who yelled, "Kill 'em," at the cops. that person now serving in a senior role at the DOJ. How is that law in order?
Well, what I can tell you is that since I have been the United States Attorney, I have brought 300 cases of assaults on police officers. I take these cases very seriously. I know what's in my office and I know what I'm dealing with. I don't speak to anything that occurred before I got there. I have enough cases to deal with right now, and the police know that I have their back, given the fact that I am there to make sure that there is accountability whenever a police officer is spit on or shot or stabbed or assaulted, and that includes corrections officers, Capitol Police. I've got my own record that I'm proud of, and that's the record I'm going to speak about.
Yeah, look, I'm not here to talk about crime that actually happened, okay? There's a lot of imaginary crime in my head that I have to deal with, and the police know I have their back when this thing that is in my head happens, okay? Because anything that happened prior to me being here that had nothing to do with me probably never even happened, because apparently, even though I'm an adult, I lack object permanence, and I find the game of peekaboo incredibly cruel. How could you keep disappearing on me like that? Anyway, crime is down across virtually every metric and has been for years. Sorry, I just had to say that true thing really quick, just to kind of remind myself what it sounds like. So let's listen to Trump here use language that I can only describe as mask off.
So this morning they saw that they fought back against law. See, they fight back until you knock the hell out of them, because it's the only language they understand. But they fought back against law enforcement.
So there's a lot going on in that statement. For one, it's dehumanizing, you could say. It also reduces potentially children to being animals who need to be physically assaulted, which makes me wonder, does Trump think he can dodge the Epstein file allegations by saying he wants to beat children up or try them as adults? I don't know that that's the best strategy, because if his whole thing right now is like, well, they're 14 years old, we should try them as adults. What else does he think we should be doing with 14-year-olds? I don't know. I'm spitballing. I'm just an idea guy. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying what comes off the top of the noggin. It's no big deal. All right. Anyway, next up, we have Pete Buttigieg, with whom I disagree on many things politically, but I cannot help but like the guy. And I agree with everything he's saying here. And honestly, at this point, really, beggars can't be choosers, because they're very likely going to get physically assaulted by a federally militarized fascistic police force. So take it away, Pete.
As we speak, the federal government is taking over the policing of a major American city, Washington, D.C. The president is doing this not in order to make the city safer, that's the job of local law enforcement, but to solve his own political problems. He needs to get his base talking and thinking about something besides his refusal to open up the Epstein files because he's mixed up in them. And he wants the rest of the country focused on something, anything, besides the work that he has done and continues to do to kick millions of Americans off of their health insurance, to close down rural hospitals, and to undermine basic functions of our government in order to pay for tax cuts for the wealthiest. I hesitate to use a word like distraction, even though distraction is part of his goal, because it is a legitimately important thing that he is taking power in this way, and he has threatened to do it in other cities, maybe the community where you live, maybe the community where I live. So how are we supposed to handle this? We have to deal with both. We have to stand up to the dangerous, authoritarian actions that the president is taking, and keep a focus on the everyday impacts of his disastrous and unpopular economic policy and budget. We can and must do both.
Well said, Buttigieg. My only note is I wish you'd included a joke or two about Judge Jeanine not having any legs.
Enough.
Maybe next time. As for now, I agree with basically everything Buttigieg just said. I think we need to walk and chew gum at the same time right now. Trump just announced he has every intention of doing this in other major cities, including my own, like Los Angeles. And I don't think this just flies in the face of the law. I also think it flies in the face of consensus reality, where crime is down and has been for years. It is an incredibly disorienting time. It is very dizzying. It is like we're being hit with a constant barrage of turd grenades that this administration is throwing at the American people, and it is exhausting. And so I think the only thing we can do in times like this is just keep our wits about us, because there's going to be a huge portion of the American people who still support this. They're going to stand by the president regardless of how much he deviates from consensus reality, because it's called the sunk cost fallacy. So the best thing we can do is not dehumanize other people as they are doing. And also remember that, yeah, that guy's totally in the Epstein files. Like, I mean, come on. Like, what do you guys elected a predator. You elected a predator, didn't you? Yeah, you did. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. This is just, what are we doing? All right. What are we doing? That's my question for you. I'm fine. You're the one freaking out. All right.